So you've just started Bloodborne. You might be thinking, what in the fuck? But don't worry dudes, I was here once, and as a former Soulsborne noob myself, I've decided to make a video to try and help all the new players that have entered the hunt with this month's PlayStation Plus giveaway of Bloodborne. I'm Texas with $1, and these are my tips and tricks to help you get started on your hunt. I won't be going over any of the co-op or PvP aspects of the game in this video, but be sure to stay tuned for my beginner's guide to co-op and PvP. Before getting into anything specific, the best advice I can give when starting this game is to be patient and try not to get frustrated. Bloodborne is a difficult game, despite all the comments you'll see online of how people run into this game and immediately make it their bitch. When you begin Bloodborne, the first thing you'll have to do is make your character. There are several classes to choose from, which you can base your build around. If you're a first-time player, I would recommend the Lone Survivor, as it will give you the most survivability in the early game content. As you awaken in Bloodborne, you won't have any items or weapons at your disposal. You'll see this asshole, and good chance he'll fuck your day up. But don't worry, this is designed to happen. Upon your first death, you'll awaken in the Hunter's Dream. This will act as your home or base. You can come here to purchase items, repair and upgrade weapons, and level up. If you manage to get past the wolf, you'll have to continue to push forward until you find the lamp or die to reach the Hunter's Dream. Lamps will act as checkpoints and allow you to travel from your current area to the Hunter's Dream and vice versa. To travel out of the Hunter's Dream, simply go to the tombstones in the dream that will show a list of lamps you have unlocked and have access to travel to. Upon arriving in the Hunter's Dream for the first time, you'll have access to your first weapons in the game. You'll get an option of 3 main hand weapons to choose from. The cleaver being a more balanced weapon, the axe a strength-based weapon, and the cane a skill-based weapon. This will probably be your main weapon throughout a large portion of the game, so the one you choose should be based on the playstyle and leveling direction you want to take your character. Each weapon has a unique moveset, and it is best to find the one that suits you and become familiar with it. Other weapons will be available for purchase as you progress through the game. Be sure to equip your weapons and get a feel for how they work before running into combat. R1 will be your quicker light attack, and R2 will be a heavier attack that can also be held down to do a charge attack. Your main hand weapon will also have a transform mode. You can hit the L1 button to transform your weapon, and again to transform it back. The movesets between the two modes are usually quite different, and you should take some time to get used to both. You can also transform your weapons in mid-attack to perform different types of combos on your enemies. You will also be given the choice of 2 guns for your left-handed weapon, the Hunter's Pistol and the Blunderbuss. The pistol is a single shot which allows for speedier responses, and the Blunderbuss a spread shot, being able to hit multiple enemies but will run slightly slower than the pistol. Your gun typically won't be a huge source of your damage output, but is best to find the one that suits your playstyle. To use your gun, make sure to equip it, and L2 will fire your weapon. You will need Quicksilver bullets in order to use your gun. They can be found throughout the world, as well as drop from enemies and can also be purchased. Hitting up on the D-pad is a way to acquire 5 blood bullets, but it will cost you some health. There are several ways to heal in Bloodborne, but your primary source of healing will come from blood vials. These are also acquired the same way as bullets, as they can be found, dropped from enemies, or purchased. To use a blood vial when needed, just press the triangle button. The amount a blood vial heals for is a percentage based on your max health. Another way to heal in Bloodborne is from the rally system. When you take damage, you'll notice part of your health bar turns a slightly different color and will slowly drop down. If you can manage to hit an enemy before the gauge runs out, you'll receive health back. This is a really helpful mechanic, as it can pay off for being aggressive and not having to stop combat to heal yourself. But keep in mind, it might not always be the best option. The last way to heal is not one you should be dependent on, but can be a lifesaver when you least expect it. In the Hunter's Dream, you will be given a notebook. You can use this to leave other players notes throughout the world, giving them hints as to what may be coming next, clues to items, or shortcuts in the area. Other players can rate your notes as fine or foul. If someone finds your note useful and rates it fine, you'll receive a free boost of health the moment your note is rated fine. This can be very useful while exploring or in combat. Other players will be leaving notes around the world for you to read as well. so if you do find a useful note, don't forget to rate it fine to help that player out. Keep in mind, you need to be playing online in order to use the notebook or see notes from other players. Another thing to know before engaging in combat is knowing how to evade and lock onto targets. Evading and dodging enemy attacks is key to survival. By pressing circle, you will perform a quick dodge move. You can choose which direction you dodge by pressing the directional stick in that direction. If you're not locked onto an enemy, you'll perform a roll. If you are locked onto an enemy, you'll do a sidestep. To lock onto an enemy, press the R3 button while looking at the enemy you wish to lock onto. Dodging and attacking will cost stamina, so be sure to keep an eye on your bar. If you run out, you won't be able to do either, and more often than not, it will result in your death. Another key combat component to Bloodborne is the visceral attack. The visceral attack can be performed in several ways, but the most common way will be through riposting. This is done with your firearm. If you time an enemy's attack right and fire at the right time, the enemy will be stunned and you'll be greeted with this glorious noise. When this happens, get as close to the enemy as you possibly can and hit the R1 button. This will perform an extremely powerful attack. This is also beneficial because while executing this attack, you are also granted a small window of invincibility from any other attacks in the area. It can be hard to learn because it's all about timing and not all enemies will attack the same way, but it's a powerful mechanic that can be used on most enemies and some bosses. Another way to achieve the visceral attack is through backstabbing. Backstabbing is easy to perform when you have the drop on an enemy. Just carefully sneak behind the enemy and hold R2 for your charge attack. You should hear the same noise as a successful riposte and can execute the same way by pressing R1. You don't always have to sneak behind an enemy to pull this off, but it can be much more difficult on an engaging target. Another thing you need to know before making your way onto the hunt is the use of items. There are a lot of items you can acquire throughout the game, each one of them serving their own purpose. To understand what each item does, it's important to read the description of every item you collect. To use an item, slot it to your quick items through the menu. You can hit down on the D-pad to cycle through your items you have equipped to your quick slots. When you have your desired item in the window, press the square button to use. The earliest in-game items you can acquire are pebbles and molotovs and are extremely useful in the early stages of the game. Pebbles are the perfect way to pull an enemy from a group to get a one-on-one fight and even the odds. Molotovs are also really powerful in the early stages of the game and will help you in areas you may be struggling in. Just remember, when you use an item, you will no longer have them. When you die, your items will not reset. Whatever you have used is forever gone until you collect or purchase more, including bullets and blood vials. If you do collect more than what you can carry, the items will automatically be sent to your storage, which you can access in the Hunter's Dream. Blood vials and bullets will reset if you have extra in your storage, but not other items. You will have to go back and manually retrieve those. When you kill enemies in Bloodborne, you'll receive blood echoes. Blood echoes work as your in-game currency and they are used to level up and purchase items. When you die, you'll be stripped of all the blood echoes you have on you and you have one chance to get them back. You can go back to the area where you died to retrieve your blood echoes. Sometimes they'll be there to pick up, other times they'll be located on an enemy. You will have to kill that enemy to get your blood echoes back. There will be an indicator in the enemy's eyes that have your blood echoes. Throughout the game, you will also be collecting insight. Insight plays an important and interesting part of the game as certain things will be affected by the number of insight you have. Insight can be collected in different ways. You will find items called Madman's Knowledge early on throughout the game, and consuming them will give you 1 insight. You will also receive insight for finding enemy bosses and even more after they have been defeated. There will also be items that can only be purchased with insight. Insight are unlike blood echoes in the fact that you don't lose them when you die. There are certain enemies, however, that can consume small amounts of insight from you if they do manage to perform a certain attack. You will also need 1 insight in order to level up. To level up, you'll need to have 1 insight before you return to the Hunter's Dream. Once there, the doll that occupies the dream will now be awake and you have the ability to trade in your blood echoes to level up. The way you level up is entirely up to you and your playstyle, but keep in mind the weapon you are using will have a scaling element attached to it. All weapons will have letters based on how well they will scale with each stat. If you find a weapon you really enjoy, it'll be beneficial to raise that particular stat it scales best with to increase your damage output. Another way to increase your damage is to level up your weapon inside the Hunter's Dream. The early material found in game to level your weapon is known as a Bloodstone Shard. These can be found throughout the game and can eventually be purchased with Insight. While using the workshop bench, you can fortify your weapon to improve it. The amount of materials needed will be listed on the right hand side of your screen. Be sure to repair your weapons as well while visiting the Hunter's Dream. All weapons have a durability rating that will continue to go down the more you use it. If you still feel like you don't have enough damage to take on the task at hand, you can spend some time going through areas just to collect blood echoes for leveling up. The last thing I have is to keep your eyes open. Bloodborne is filled with traps and enemies waiting to ambush you. So when navigating new areas, be sure to take a look at your surroundings and take your time. There are also tons of shortcuts and hidden paths for you to find, which will make navigating through areas easier and possibly give you a quick run to the boss. Keep in mind, just because there is an enemy there doesn't mean you have to engage. Sometimes finding a different path or simply creeping by an enemy is the best strategy. There's a lot to learn in this game, and I hope this video helps in any way possible. Bloodborne can be difficult and frustrating at times, but it's no reason to give up and miss out on this game that's nothing short of amazing. If I missed anything that you think is important, or have something you wish you would have known jumping into this game, please let me know in the comments below. And remember,
may the good blood guide your way.